Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from a throwaway new mom who says, "Am I the arsehole for not telling my father and stepmother about my son's birth? My 26 female father, 59 male, has been dating Paula, 38 female, for 4 years. I never got to know her well, as I was about to move out when we met. My sister, 20 female, still lives with our parents and likes Paula, but finds her annoying. Paula has an odd attitude towards pregnancy. It became the most obvious when my cousin announced she was expecting back in 2021. Her daughter would be the first great-grandchild. We hadn't been sure my grandma would be around for that, and after an emotional announcement in which everyone was overjoyed, Paula commented that she felt it wasn't a big deal and didn't get what all the fuss was about. She kept that stance for all of 9 months, but once the baby was born, Paula suddenly became a bit too interested in her, which my cousin was clearly uncomfortable with. My husband, 28 male, and I announced our pregnancy earlier this year. At first, my father was over the moon, since this is his first grandchild. I believed that would last. But as I heard from my sister, Paula was just as condescending as we expected, if not more. Whenever I announced anything about my pregnancy or baby, sex, first kicks, ultrasound pictures, etc., Paula always reacted with one of 3 phases. Okay, that's not a big deal, or is that all she talks about these days? I didn't care about it at first, but after a few weeks I started to notice my father was also losing any interest he had in my pregnancy. As the months went by, he became increasingly detached and standoffish. He started to either ignore or not pay attention to most of the updates I made on my baby. He also didn't come to our name reveal. We did that instead of a gender reveal. It was literally just a lunch party with a game we made up, or the baby shower because, and I quote, Paula doesn't think it's worth it. My son was born on Halloween, and I decided not to tell my father and Paula, after almost 9 months of excuses and disinterest. I didn't see any reason to. I was in the hospital for 4 days, during which only mine and my husband's closest friends and family visited us. The day before we left, I posted a picture of my son on Instagram, and that's when my father found out. He called to ask why I hadn't told him and Paula or invited them to meet my baby. I didn't lie. I didn't make any effort to get involved, both emotionally and physically, during my pregnancy, so they'd have to wait for baby news like everybody else. My father and Paula are furious, accusing me of using my son as a pawn and keeping them away out of pettiness. They are saying I'm holding the fact that they missed a few dumb parties against them. My husband and pretty much my whole family agrees with me. My sister, while mostly on my side, still thinks I should have told my father, since this is his first grandchild and he had to find out he was born through social media. She thinks this is all Paula's fault and I should apologize to our dad. Am I the arsehole? So then there were some relevant comments and some additional information. The post was pretty much flagged as like not enough information to begin with. So the first comment said, "Not the arsehole. I think you need to have a conversation with your dad. Need to let him know he will inevitably miss out on a lot more if he continues to mirror Paula's indifference in shared family milestones. It's not everyone else's responsibility to compensate. If he intends to have a relationship with his grandchildren and also have relationships with other relatives, he needs to be willing to do his part as well and express interest and participate. And no, it isn't about showing up to parties. It is about making the effort to be included when you're invited to be and not dismiss those invitations as if they are meaningless." OP responds saying, "I'm trying to make that clear to them. My father missed my graduation. Not coming to my baby shower doesn't bother me that much. It's the condescending attitude and lack of interest they have both been displaying my entire pregnancy that made me decide not to tell them." Substantial Youth says, "Not the arsehole. All of the everyone sucks here replies are dumb as hell. Paula has your dad twirled around her finger. The only 2 in-person baby events that you had, they didn't show up, and your dad was standoffish for the majority of your pregnancy due to Paula. He's a grown-ass man. He doesn't get to all of a sudden meet and be involved with his first grandchild's life, when he barely cared before. Guaranteed he only wanted to come to the hospital for photos and to post social media and show off. Apologizing to your dad will not do anything, but only enable his BS. He needs to step up, put his foot down to Paula, and show you that he genuinely and actively wants to be a part of your immediate family's life. Your dad can be updated via social media until he gets his face out of his behind and acts like an actual father." OP says, "My father is against posting pictures of children on social media, but he's definitely the type of person to try and show off in real life. That being said, I do believe he genuinely wanted to meet my son at the hospital." And Portion of Sunshine says, Honestly, the naming party I can see being like well, that's a little dumb, kind of like gender reveal parties, but to miss the baby shower? My god. To ignore the part where you celebrate the parents and upcoming baby, give baby supplies so the parents don't get overloaded with prep costs, and even just spend time with your daughter knowing she'll have a handsful for at least the next year. Man needs to get his head out of his ass. Opie says calling the name reveal a party was probably an exaggeration on my part. It was a small lunch with a Clue-style game my husband and I created. I talked to my sister about it, and we both think that had I not told my father the lunch was baby related, he and Paula might have come. But Opie wanted to come in and give some more additional information. He said my Am I the Arsehole post from a few weeks ago was voted not enough info, which seems fair. I tried to reply to whatever comments I could, but I don't think everyone read those. So I'm writing this to reply to the most common questions that were asked in my original post, as well as to clarify some things that might have been misunderstood. Some of these are literally copy and pasted from my comments, by the way. Does Paula want or like kids? Opie says she doesn't have children, and from what I gather, she doesn't want to. I know for an absolute fact that my father doesn't want more kids. She also has never been pregnant. She has mentioned that to my sister on some occasions. Paula does, however, like kids, especially babies. She was all over my cousin's daughter once she was born, and I have no doubt she'll do the same with my son. It's pregnancy and the events that surround it that she seems to have a problem with. Opie says the age gap between my father and Paula. Paula is actually on the older side. None of the many women my father has been with since divorcing my mum have been older than 35 by the time they broke up. I'm genuinely surprised they are still dating, as his relationships don't tend to last more than a couple of years. And yes, I do realize that none of these things are good. As much as I'm bothered by it, it's not my place to say anything, especially now that I don't live with my father anymore. As long as they're both consenting adults, there's not much I can do or say about it, and that's fine. Opie says, why does my sister find Paula annoying? And says, according to my sister, Paula's most annoying habits include frequently speaking in a baby voice, mostly around my father, interrupting other people while they're talking and criticizing random women on the street, behind their backs. I don't know Paula well enough to be sure how valid these claims are, but I've witnessed a bit of those first two habits during previous visits. The baby voice annoys me too, to be honest. She sometimes sounds like the 4-year-olds I used to babysit, but again, it's not my place to complain. Paula's behavior once my cousin's daughter was born. Paula would ask for more pictures of the baby than both me and my sister were getting. Even though she barely knew my cousin, she made many comments about how she looked nothing like my cousin's husband. She tried to get my cousin's daughter to say her name when she was 5 months old. Paula isn't a real name. Her actual name is longer and harder to pronounce. And every single picture Paula ever took with a baby was turned into an Instagram post, most times without my cousin's approval. Whenever we visited, Paula asked to hold my cousin's daughter all the time, and hesitated to give her to anyone else. Last Christmas, she wanted my cousin to open a gift for the baby first, and got annoyed that an actual infant wasn't as excited about it as she was. She has also made a few comments about how my cousin still hasn't bounced back, and has spoken ill of my cousin's husband behind his back. Opie says, what updates did I make about my pregnancy? Some people in the comments seem to mistake updates for social media posts, so I want to stress that I barely posted about my pregnancy on social media. I made maybe 2 posts while pregnant, and another one to announce my son's birth. Those were only on Instagram. I hate TikTok, and my account is private. Many of my co-workers didn't even know I was pregnant until I showed up one day with snug clothing and a 7-month bump. A few of them didn't find out until I went on maternity leave. I do a large part of my work sitting down. The updates I'm referring to were made only to my family and close friends. They were mostly about mine and my son's health, and all of them were either made in person or by text and phone call. Most of the updates I made to my father were through text, since I work and don't see him in person that much. Also, my father and I have had problems in the past over me not telling him anything, and my relatively new habit of updating him what has been going on in my life is an effort to remedy that. Seriously, I get where people are coming from, but I find it concerning that we live in a time where someone can't mention updates about their pregnancy without people assuming they're talking about social media. Did I talk to my father about his or Paula's behavior? Yes, several times. He said he'd try to be more involved, but he never made any attempt to do so. He either didn't remember our conversations or genuinely didn't care. I'm fine with Paula not being interested in my pregnancy or the 2 events I invited her and my father to. We don't know each other that well. What I'm not fine with is her rudeness whenever I shared any information with my family, as well as the fact that my dad let himself be dragged down by her behavior. How many events did I invite them to during my pregnancy? Literally the only 2 I mentioned. The name reveal lunch and the baby shower. Why a name reveal? Me and my husband hate gender reveals, but we still wanted a small light-hearted affair with close friends and family, and calling it a party was an exaggeration on my part. It was a small lunch with a Clue-style game my husband and I created. I talked with my sister about it, and we both think that had I not told my father the lunch was baby-related, he and Paula might have come. Opie then quotes some of the comments like, "Not everyone cares about your pregnancy," / "Having a baby is a normal thing," / "You're not the main character of everyone's life." Opie goes on to say, "At no point did I express any of that, nor did I expect to be treated like Demeter. I'm perfectly aware that pregnancy is not an unusual experience, and I'm not special just because I had a baby. Most of the time, I actually hate being the center of attention. I dated my family about my pregnancy because my son is their family too, and my friends because they asked and worried about me. I never expected any special treatment from any of them, but I do expect to be treated with respect, or at the very least, politely." Opie quotes someone else who says, "You shouldn't cut your dad and his girlfriend out of your son's life just because he didn't care about your pregnancy." Opie says, "Again, never said I would. All I did was not tell them my son was born. I made it clear that they were free to come meet him once we brought him home. And this isn't about them not showing up to parties or not caring about my pregnancy as much as I did. My father missed my graduation. Not coming to my baby shower doesn't bother me that much. It's the condescending attitude and lack of interest that both my dad and Paula have been displaying my entire pregnancy that made me decide not to tell them." Did my father know my due date? Opie says, "I told him about it several times. My son was born the day after my due date. At no point did he try to reach out before or during my hospital stay. My best guess is that he forgot about it. Who did come to visit us in the hospital?" Opie says, "My mum, my stepdad, my sister, my maternal aunt and 2 cousins, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and a few of our closest friends. Overall, about 15 people came to meet our son during our 4-day hospital stay. My mother, sister, brother-in-law, and 2 of my best friends, including my baby's godmother, were the only people who came more than once. I also want to add that besides those people, the only ones who found out about my son's birth prior to my post on Instagram were the ones who asked. My father and Paula were not among those people. I think that's all I wanted to clarify. I also do have an update, and I'll try to post it soon." So Opie does come in with her update and says, "Because my Am I the Arsehole post was voted not enough info, I posted on my page some additional information in reply to the most common questions I was asked. That being said, most of the comments helped me understand that I did the right thing. Maybe I was the arsehole, but I had the right to be one. My final conclusion was, be rude to me through a hard time in my life? Fine. Have fun in the peanut gallery." I decided that I wasn't exactly comfortable with the idea of Paula holding and cooing over my newborn after almost 9 months of rudeness and lack of acknowledgement. So I told my father that while he was free to come to my apartment and meet his grandson for the first time, I didn't want Paula to tag along. My intentions weren't to ban her forever, but rather to just wait a month or 2, or in a perfect world, until she apologized. We had a small fight over it, but my dad agreed and came to meet him without Paula. He visited us a couple more times that week. During these visits, he was cold and short with me and my husband, and I ended up being cold in return. This was admittedly not my proudest moment, but I was too tired and angry to care at the time. A little under 2 weeks ago, my paternal aunt and 2 cousins, including the one I mentioned in my previous post, came from out of state. My cousin stayed at my apartment, while my aunt stayed at my father's. During her stay, my aunt caught several instances of Paula openly bad-mouthing me and my unfair treatment of her, but didn't comment on it at first. And then, the day before she left, she watched my father not only agree with Paula, but called me childish and ungrateful as well. Like most of my family, my aunt knew the whole story. She told them both off for how they treated me during my pregnancy. My sister was there and eventually joined in. The result was, apparently, a huge fight between all 4 of them. Eventually, my sister started crying. She drove to my place and told me everything before falling asleep on my couch. My father called me and we fought. It lasted about 40 minutes, and after countless attempts on his part to play the "but I'm your father" card, I managed to make it clear that I owed Paula nothing, least of all my time and attention. The next day, my aunt came over for lunch. She told us that after our argument, there was another massive fight, this time between my dad and Paula. She didn't pick up on specific words, only screaming. A few days later, my dad called me again. He apologized and promised to be more involved. I'm not sure how sincere he was. I accepted the apology, but told him he's on thin ice. I will help him be a part of our lives, but I refuse to be the only one making the effort. It's not my job to try and engage him in things he shows no interest in. And if he doesn't get invested in something, he can't expect to be treated the same as the people who do. My sister went back to his place a few days later. Paula wasn't there. Apparently she's staying with her mother for a while. Neither of us know anything else about that. If this turns out to be an actual breakup, My father will probably wait a while to confirm it. I never wished ill on her, but I'd be lying if I said I had faith in their relationship, or any of my father's for that matter. Countless fights and a cluster feeding newborn later. I'm exhausted. I'm glad this is over. My relationship with my father is still very strained, and I'm not particularly proud of how things turned out. But my main focus now is my son, and it warms my soul to witness how loved he already is. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all. And I'm not sure about how you feel on this one. There could be many reasons, right? But it just sort of like, to me, it felt like Paula is sort of like jealous of the attention during the pregnancy, because with the first one, where OP spoke about their cousin being pregnant and seemed to make all the comments about the cousin at that time until she actually gave birth, and Paula suddenly became really interested in the baby and seemed okay. So it kind of seemed to me that whenever someone else was getting attention, Paula wouldn't like it and seemed to like take the attention away from him, like, I don't get what all the fuss is about, etc., etc. And personally, this might be a me thing, but I find some of the comments really strange about this. I know in reality the pregnancy is your thing, etc., etc. It's your experience, but this is her father. So when I see comments like, not everyone cares about your pregnancy, you're not the main character of everyone's life, this is her father. I know for a fact if I was in that father's situation, I'd be concerned about my daughter, making sure she was okay. This is your child, albeit an adult now. This is still your child, someone that you love or should love. Someone that you love. So, I see it in quite a few comments these days about people saying, you got pregnant. This is down to you. That's your responsibility. No one owes you anything anymore. I find that quite sad, to be quite honest. But anyway, I'm talking jibber jabber as usual. Let's have another little cheeky story, shall we? We're going to go to the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. When I saw the title of this next one, and my eyebrows were raised. This one's from Travelling Pookie, who says, am I the arsehole for expressing to my in-laws that I don't want to be their server for their family's Christmas dinner? So, I'm a newlywed. My in-laws are rolling into town for Christmas and staying at my husband's and my new house. They mentioned wanting to dine out for Christmas dinner, but I offered to whip up a home-cooked feast instead. Unfortunately, they turned down the offer. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm currently working as a server in our town after recently being laid off from my corporate job. Lucky for me, the restaurant is closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas. Well, turns out my mother-in-law had other plans. She called up my workplace without speaking to me beforehand and asked for me to be their server for their entire Christmas dinner. I found out through my husband that I'll be playing the role of their server for their festive family celebration, and my Christmas gift would be a sweet tip and takeout from my restaurant. Seems a bit odd, especially since our restaurant isn't even open on Christmas Eve or Christmas, and I'd be available to spend time with them on those days. They're scheduling this dinner the day before we close and making it their designated family celebration. I politely declined because, let's be real, being excluded from Christmas dinner while working as their server, that's a hard pass from me. Unfortunately, I was told I was being dramatic, and there's nothing weird about me being their server for their family's Christmas dinner. Thoughts, anyone? My thoughts? They can fuck off with that nonsense. I'd be very interested to know what your husband's got to say about that, because that feels real disgusting to me, and it feels like a power play. But Falling Into Polka Dot says, not the arsehole. Damn, that's insulting and spiteful as fuck. We don't want you to cook or be a participant in our Christmas celebration, but we'd love to come to your workplace and have you serve us. So technically, you are there with us, but you can't contribute to the conversation and are required to be polite because it's your job. And to say your gift is the tip and takeout. What the ever-loving fuck of bullshit is that? I'll tell your boss that you request to not serve them, or switch with a coworker, or call out last minute or something. How in hell does your husband not see the offense in their actions and isn't supporting you? Opie says, I felt like it was very offensive and couldn't really understand why they thought it was weird that I said no. If the roles were switched, my family would never do that to their child-in-law. I've served my husband, friends, and family in the past, but not on a holiday where I was being isolated. I feel like I'm being gaslit. Vix replies to that and says they are gaslighting you. They went so far out of their way to put you in this god-awful, weird-as-fuck spot. They turned down a home-cooked Christmas dinner to do this. That's beyond weird. That's insane. Please do not entertain the idea that they are in any way right. You're definitely not the arsehole, and honestly, run from that family. Then Elvis says not the arsehole and quotes, I was told that I was being dramatic and there's nothing weird about me being their server for their family's Christmas dinner. Then goes on to say it's fucking weird. Is there anything you're not telling us that makes this even worse by any chance? Are you a different race from your in-laws or something? Opie says honestly, they're all super rich, like millionaire status. I am also half Mexican and a quarter native, but I'm super fair skinned, so not a different race. This depressed me by quite a bit, to be fair. Edited to BPC. Mexican roots on my father's side and 1/4 from Native American ancestry, which I share from both my mother and father's sides. Correction again, fair-skinned. Margaret Cat Furniture says not the arsehole. Unless your husband is insisting that the family dinner actually include you as an actual sit-down participant, you have more than just an in-law problem. OP quotes that and says you have more than just an in-law problem and says I read that before posting. Looks like it's time for a sit-down discussion with him. And absolutely, your husband needs to be backing OP up in this situation, but for the in-laws, is there ever any coming back from that for you? For me, the absolute audacity of it, I don't think there would be any coming back. I wouldn't be allowing them around my house after that kind of shit. I'm trying to think of a reason, an excuse for them that would make what they said acceptable in any way, shape, or form. I can't think of one. That is so messed up. You offer to cook them a home-cooked meal, which is absolutely amazing. Christmas dinners take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Dinner in general takes a lot of time and effort to make for someone else, especially multiple people. You offered that, they turned you down, but they're happy to have you serve them their Christmas dinner at somewhere else. It's just absolute shit. How would you react if that was you in that situation? Maybe you've got a different take on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. You just don't, still